Yo,
What's
Shawn, what's
good?
going on?
How you feeling?
Welcome back. Welcome back to another episode. Y'all, welcome back to FX2GL, the Bag Talk 101, where we talk about finance. It's so good to be back on the podcast with you, Shawn. It's been a pleasure, man. What's going on with you this week?
Man, I'm tired. Like I said, I've been going back to these 11-hour work weeks, man. Like every day, like 11 hours every day. Almost pushing 12 hours, man, with the tutoring and the teaching and the after school stuff. Like today I had chess. So I was teaching the kids how to win the game of chess because they like to they just like to play to the timer run out, and then that's how they win, but they don't know how to win, they don't know how to checkmate.
Okay, getting them in early. Well, that's a blessing, but this crazy coming from you because my boy Shawn, like he is the extreme socialite. Shawn, like everywhere he going, and so I know if it's getting you tired, bro, it's got to be a lot. You know, because I'm the type of cat usually I just I show up to a function or something. I'll be chilling in the background. I don't say a whole lot. Just
Yeah.
because my energy. So that's kind of being the introverted extrovert, right? But that's huge, man. I'm
What you
glad
been
that
on?
What'd you say?
Yeah, what you been
Man,
on?
what have I been on? Work, trying to get my traction still. Being a plant supervisor and everything. It can kind of be taxing because there's so many things. Like the thing about supervisor managerial roles is, you just never know what that new gig is going to entail. Like it's just not straight and narrow because every situation is different. Like I'm a chemical officer by trade, but I'm working with totally different chemicals. So really what I bring together, to the table is aptitude and attitude, right? So every day I try to get in there and get involved with the people and interact as much as I possibly can and just learn everything. I'm always taking notes. I got my little notebook. I'm flipping through it.
Yup.
Um, that's the go-to, man. I had a colonel tell me one time, he was saying that the shortest pencil it outlasts the sharpest mind, and that
Mm.
always stuck with me. So no matter what, every new job role I go in, I get me a stack of them little tiny memo books, and I just be jotting. And then at the end of the day, I take it. I'm like, okay, what did I learn today? And any gaps that I do have, I go and I write them down. And then the good notes that I took from people, little, okay, this temperature needs to be this storage level needs to be this. I take that, put it in my notebook for continuity. So that way I got, my admin level stuff that I got to take care of my people with. And then on the other side, I got all the, the subject matter, expert knowledge, right? Because most companies, they don't have a training guidebook. And if they do, they typically don't train to it. And so usually I'm the person that comes in and kind of builds that glue because you got people, turnover happens all the time. Yeah, it's my cohort in Africa, the turnover there was real. Shout out to Alonzo, bro.
It's
We
good, man.
appreciate you, man. Alonzo in the building. And so it's just been a blessing, man. I'm just trying to walk in my truth and own, the position that I worked so hard, for. And I've been prepared up to this point to be in. So that's really where I'm at, man. That's really where I'm at. So, I appreciate you. It's all a part of the journey. Um, so today our topic is we're talking about 7 levels of wealth. And the gentleman that we got this from, and they call it the 7 levels of financial freedom from a millionaire. And before we get into the article, I'm gonna show this. I'm gonna pull up this clip and kind of show the beginning of kind of give some background on our man, and kind of kind of grease the skids a little bit here.
My story starts back when I was 24. I had to move back home with my parents because I had $2.26 in my bank account. And I went to a July 4th picnic with my parents. And during this 4th of July picnic, all anyone talked about was retirement.
One way of looking at retirement is as a path toward financial freedom. One rule of thumb has been to save 10 to 15% of your income so you can retire comfortably at the age of 65.
And I was like, gosh, I'm so far away from that and I'm so broke. And that's when I started just looking at the numbers. And I was like, oh, okay. So if I'm making $52,000 a year and saving 5% of my income, I'm never going to retire. I'm never going to have enough money. But how do I even know how much money I'm going to need? And that sent me down the rabbit hole into building a completely new life and choosing to live differently than both my friends and my family.
And that's just, the little clip there. It's very powerful because even in that short clip, he really touches on some key elements as far as percentage wise, as far as looking at it. Hey, you live at, 20% of your life's income, putting that away for that to grow in compound interest. And in prior episodes, we've actually talked quite heavily about compound interest. What would you get out of that? Just that little snippet, because you are obviously our research guy, so this article came from you.
I really like the video because he talked about how like he sat around, and everybody was talking about retirement. And bro, that's the thing. Like a lot of the people we around don't even talk about retirement. So like he at least had the chance to change his trajectory. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine being at a picnic where everybody talking about spending money. That's all he's gonna do too. But because he's in a group of people that's talking about retirement, he took it upon himself to now do more research.
Well, and bro, that's huge because, people talk about, tell me who your friends are, and that's going to show your trajectory, right? I think it's huge. The reason why Bag Talk exists is because you and I, we read the Millionaire, what is it, Millionaire Mind or Millionaire Next Door? Because, it kind of sent me down that rabbit hole, but it's one of those things where you have to get in the realm and the mindset of there is a future. And so how do I plan for that future? Part of that is going to be, your network. A big part of that is going to be intentional, and that's going to be huge. So let's get into the article. So the first one, the first step that they reference is relative to so clarity. The number one is clarity.
Yep.
You figure out where you are financially and where you want to go. And that's huge, Shawn. So with this level, before we start on these levels, I kind of want to paint the picture here. What levels have you accomplished, and what levels are you currently working on?
So by myself, I got to level 4. Okay, that was before Zora entered my life and became my wife, and she was around a level 4 too. But when we got married and we combined our finances and our wealth together, we're now at a level 5.
Which is outstanding, bro. That's huge. Because they do say, and here's the beautiful part about marriage and finding the right partner at the right time. And growing with that person and going through the ups and downs, and you both bring something to the table. We no longer live, in the economy where you can just have one person really hauling the load. That's nearly impossible. And a lot of singles out here, they're never going to have a retirement because they're not intentional. They keep stacking the things to impress other people that aren't going to be there for them later. So that's beautiful what y'all have painted, and that's huge. So I think I've been to level 4 and almost level 5 alone. And so when I'm looking at these steps, I'm looking at it as I don't necessarily think now in order. Yes, I believe that these steps are perfectly set in order. However, sometimes you may bounce, you may take a step back to take a step forward. For me, a big, huge one is for going up to level 4, you have no bad debt and 6 months worth of expenses for emergencies. For me, I took a couple deployments back to back, and that springboarded me forward. But my lifestyle becoming more, and preparing for, C-suite level positions, going from supervisor managerial to, executive officer on a board and things like that. There's a certain image that you have to have and a certain presentation that you have. So a lot of, my savings when I got back, they went to, finding a nice place in a nice area where I can be close to the city so I can network, so I can grow the bag and help other people get to the bag, right? Because the greatest teacher is experience, right? So we walk it like, we talking around here. And so that was huge for me, getting a spot, getting, the vehicle that, with the quality that I wanted and what was going to help me thrive. When I woke up in the morning, this next level, when I bumped over to this next, the next bracket, it was like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I want to wake up and be like, I enjoy driving to work in whatever I drive in. Right. And I'm not going to make specifics, but I did go the luxury route. And it's one of those things where, if you want to be in a certain crowd, there's a certain image that you portray, but that also comes with action, right? So behind what I did, it comes with action. So I hit 5 because 5 was based off of what I used to make. And so I was like, but then that next level requires something different. The new job that I'm at, they're going to pay for my MBA after a year of being there, the whole thing. I just owe them a year afterwards. So I could have a whole MBA from, an abundance of universities, right? So sometimes you taking that springboard back, being in the right location for the right position that's going to put you there. Sometimes that weighs more than salary, because I got offered a higher salary when I was in Kenya. Or when I was in Africa, I got offered a higher paying gig in Kenya. But one thing that I was going to do was it was going to pull me back from my network. So I wasn't going to be able to network like that in Kenya, right? It's hard to rationalize. I got my PMP. I'm a member of the Project Management Institute of Chicago. And so I wanted to be in vicinity so I can network and make those things happen as well. But it also, you're talking about $50,000, bro, like $50,000 that I don't have to go in debt, $50,000 plus, right? It could be, somewhere up to 100K. But you're talking about, you can't replace that in income because that's just not how that works. And so let's go step by step. So when it comes down to clarity, the piece of where are you today, what stood out to you the most?
So for clarity, you figure out where you are financially and where you want to go. I think that's more like you know what? I don't want to be broke no more. I think people who are not thinking about money, like how to grow it exponentially, are at level 1 or maybe even level 2. But if you don't even know like what your expenses are, how much money you bring in, you don't have any money saved up, you're about a level 1. I think of level 1 as like maybe an 18-year-old who just moved out. Maybe not even that. Like, because level 2 is you moved out. So level 1 is like, you like 18 years old, maybe still living with your parents. Maybe a college student. And that's about all I got for level 1. What you got for level 1?
Okay, so level 1 was huge because you referenced, starting out and wanting to make that change. For me, level 1 started with pain. And my level 2, I was already on level 2 because it was noted from the time that, I hit 18, wasn't nobody there for me like that. My family had struggled the whole time. I was going to be the first person to actually get a bachelor's degree, outside of my stepmom. And, that was huge, but I had to move out to do that. So I joined the military at 17. I'm actually one of the youngest captains in my cohort, as far as, being 31. And so it was one of those things where I jumped off the porch early. But the hardest part was figuring out where I wanted to go financially. I had no clue, because in my community, we really didn't talk about financial literacy. That wasn't on the board whatsoever. Shout out to Lonzo, shout out to Zoe. Yeah, hit me up offline, bro. And we'll link up and we'll network and kind of have some conversations. But we weren't taught to really think about money. It was just you got the student loans. Before go get the student loans, it was, go get a check from the government because go get the link card, right? Go get the food stamps. Those were the baseline conversations that we were having. At 2 and 1 were, they were swapped for me. But if me talking to my daughter, I already got her on the tip where we talk about clarity of finances. Okay, we don't do this with our money. The other day for her birthday, my sister, she gave my daughter $25. Was it for her birthday or it was for Christmas? She gave her $25, whatever, just extra little spending cash. And I gave all the boys, it was like 5 boys at the table. I gave all the kids that was there a dub, right? But my daughter was like, "Oh, I got 20, but I got 25, right?" And she's a kid, so she doesn't really quite understand. She might just be even talking about the $25, but that was a lesson in money. Don't tell people about your finances like that, right? Put your money away. So for Christmas, she got a lock and key lockbox for her money, right? So trying to teach those little things early, start planting future seeds. And so that's kind of where, that clarity piece is huge. The self-sufficiency thing, moving on to self-sufficiency, I feel like that's a tough one because our generation is stuck in kind of a weird rut. You for a while, you was at the crib for a minute, weren't you?
No, I mean, I was at the crib for like a few months after I graduated from EIU, and then after I saved up, I moved out.
Okay. No, I think it was Trey, but Trey. See, here's the thing about the self-sufficiency thing. He is doing it to the T. Trey is getting to the bag while he was at the crib. And then he had a plan to jump off the porch and figure, different things out. So that was huge. So as far as self-sufficiency, what are you seeing out there trending, with our generation, younger generations, older generations, etc.?
So I wanted to talk about pretty much the same thing what you said, Tommy, because Zora and I actually went over this list and we was like butting heads on level 2. Because she was like, well, I was living with my parents and, I had money. She was saving up for the crib. Like when we got together and, when we were going to that next level and being engaged and then eventually married, she moved from her parents' home into the condo, like she saved up her money so that she can jump right into the condo. But me, I saved up my money and went into a studio. And then from the studio, I went to the condo. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. She jumped right into having a mortgage and being able to have ownership because she stayed at home and stacked her cash. Yeah. So go ahead.
See, but also the thing is background. She comes from her father's an entrepreneur, right? Yeah. So he's got a lot of irons in the fire. And that's beautiful. Like I love what they did, and that's where I want to kind of position my future, right? And you talked about this as well. Their legacy was a little bit different because when I started off too, just 4 years ago, I had 4 roommates because the rent was dirt cheap, and like I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do this financial freedom thing, I need a place where I can start building up that income. And I had stepped down from a general manager position. I was running my own store, but it was just too much stress, and there was no upward projection. The organization was in turnover, so for me, it was really hard, to do that. So I had to reduce back down. I mean, I almost went to the mom and the dad crib, you know what I'm saying? But that really wasn't an option for me because my parents weren't doing a lot better than I was, unfortunately.
I also want to read this to you. It says, you've moved out of mom and dad's and can cover your expenses. But what if you moved out of mom and dad's and went to a boyfriend or a girlfriend and then they taking care of you? Are you in level 2?
Well, honestly, I wouldn't look at that as level 2. And here's why. There is no commitment there. Marriage, I'm going to be honest, and you could disagree with this. Marriage is a business. And that's a contract, and it's one of those things where when you sign that type of contract, now it's self-sufficiency because that debt goes on both of y'all. Those assets or those liabilities go on both of y'all. So that's a different conversation. When you're living with somebody else, somebody can easily foot the load for that situation. And so I don't necessarily know that. I feel like that's not self-sufficiency. Now, if you both have decent to good incomes, and we're talking 40,000 plus, in this economy, you almost need 80,000 plus per person. 6 figures is way better. But if y'all both moving like that and y'all got y'all money and y'all got minimal debt and y'all paying things off, cool. But the biggest issue is people are tying themselves to people out of hope, right? People are but we are also in the economy, and I understand we are also in the type of economy where you do need somebody else. You may need a roommate to survive. But then again, you got to look at that business. I think it leads into number 3 as far as breathing room, right? You're saving some money and no longer living paycheck to paycheck. Most people in that self-sufficiency realm, they're trying to get that breathing room. But if you with a significant other and they got a bad spending habit, and most people do, right? Because most people aren't intentional about training themselves to be smart with their money, then it hurts your breathing room. And it's not going to get you the stability. So as we move on to breathing room, what says Shawn?
So on a side note, I've been doing the Black History Month presentations with some kids, and I've been showing them some YouTube videos with Anthony O'Neill. And
Yeah, shout
I
out to
went back
Anthony.
to the 2020 Black panel discussion, and one of the things that came up was that 75% of people, it was like 2 out of 3 people, couldn't afford a $400 emergency. And we had a big discussion. I put them on the spot. Like, I wanted them to think hard about this. I said, if you went home right now and your parents couldn't afford a $400 emergency, is it their fault? And the class was divided, bro. Like, they were like, oh, it's not their fault because they're not getting paid enough. Or some people are like, well, it is their fault because they buying like these expensive clothes and purses and shoes and clothes and, you know, going out to eat and stuff, right? So I pushed back on the people who said, well, they have a low-paying job. I said, okay, well, is it their fault if they stay in a low-paying job because they can't save? Like, I was trying to push them to think, bro. I'm like, it's your choice to sit there and get paid, you know, a bare minimum, a minimum wage. And you got 3, 4, 5 kids. I ain't even get to that point. Is it your fault if you get parents out here having kids that they can't afford? I ain't get that far because I ain't want their parents to come at me, okay? So I stopped it right there.
No, man, and I think it's good that you did, because that's a heated debate. One of the biggest problems is people look at having kids as a luxury. And a lot of times, I'm going to be honest, it's a liability. You are liable. You are held liable for what your children do and don't do. They are underneath your house. They're underneath your household. If they don't go to school, guess who they're coming for? They're coming for the parent. You are liable for that person. Liability sounds bad for a lot of people, but at the same time, it takes accountability. And guess what a lot of people don't want to do is take accountability. And it's very hard. I'm going to be honest. When you come from a system that doesn't talk about a lot of those things, it's very hard, because I remember people having 3, 4 jobs talking about they getting it. And then if we sat down, and that's why we have, you know, if you'd like to book a session, you know, at www.proprag.com, we'll discuss kind of going over your financial situation and why you feel like you have to have 3, 4 jobs. Pretty soon I'll be launching a series about certifications. So I'm going to have barbers on. I'm going to talk about the PMP. I'm going to talk about different certifications you can get that are going to help you level up. If y'all have any ideas, hit my email, TommyLee@proprag.com, and we'll kind of discuss those things. But it's one of those things where people thought there was 4 or 5 jobs getting it. People thought dope dealers were getting it. People have dope dealer boyfriends and drug dealer boyfriends. And I've met some great people that moved weight. You know what I'm saying? It was never for me, and I separated myself from that situation. But at the same time, it was one of those things where if you calculated how much they were actually making to flip, you know, the QP, to flip this and that and the other, they weren't making very much. They might as well have been working at McDonald's, because the time that they're going to spend in prison after they get caught, you know what I'm saying? Or the time that they got to spend dodging, they could have spent it elsewhere. Like, a lot of times there are certain things that I do in my life for efficiency that I'm like, man, I could have spent that time elsewhere. So the jewelry, the cars, the clothes, they whipping, man. I used to be like, oh, hey, Cuddy pulling up, you know what I'm saying, in the whip with you know what I'm saying, with the 22s on, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, that's dope. And I was rolling with them. But at the same time, it's one of those conversations where they weren't being intentional. And I'm glad that you're having these conversations with these kids, because they're not having babies yet. You catch them in the 4th grade. That is awesome for them to think about, hey, before I make this jump, I need the budget. I'm like, you know, one of the things that, you know, I love my baby girl to death, but I didn't plan on having kids, but I wasn't intentional at that time. So I have to own that. And I'm you know, every day I fight to be the best father that I possibly can, you know what I'm saying, spiritually, emotionally, financially. But those are truths that we have to walk in. But here's the beautiful part. We have the option and the opportunity to change that trajectory. And that's the beautiful part. So did you have any more on the breathing room piece?
Not really. I mean, I remember when I started getting a little bit of breathing room, because I was able to save like $25 a month. And I knew it wasn't a lot, but at least I was able to save some. And then eventually I got to $100, you know, and then, you know, I started saving $200 and $300 a month. And then I was over that $400 threshold, and I was able to get to that $1,000. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to save up $2,000. So that breathing room, real talk, that breathing room is what gives you that confidence to keep going.
Oh, it does, man. It does. And that's where Dave Ramsey changed my life. He was like, take the 25, put it away. Then pretty soon I'm looking, I'm like, man, okay, this is cool. I turned it into a game. So every check that I had, like I had a budget every week, boom. That like I literally have the same budgeting system that I created 4 or 5 years ago when I started the Dave Ramsey system. I have it in my notes and I go through it. I'm like, boom, 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 click, click, click. You know, I figure out how to make the little bubbles on the iPhone to where you can check things off and it feels good to be like, first savings, boom, 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 all right, boom. And then I take my credit card. I do the same way.
Let me jump in. I like how you just said that. You said savings, boom. That was the first thing, bro. I remember when I got my job, I used to save what was left over at the end of the month. So even if it's nothing left over, I'd be like, oh, you know, maybe next time. But no, when I got on that Dave Ramsey plan, I started saving. That was the first thing I did, bro. That was the first thing I did when I got paid. I was like, I'm putting my 25 to the side. You know, I might just have to know them, you know, to 𝗕𝗙𝗎𝗍 this month. I'm putting my 25. That's gonna be the first thing I do.
But and that's huge, man. And when you got that first step, you just feel there's just a different feeling. Like that one little ounce of breathing room will change your entire life. And that's what we all about on FX2GL. So when it comes to, so we talked about the stability piece, right? Did you really touch on the way you wanted to touch on it?
Yeah, that was it.
Okay, so with stability, you have no bad debt and 6 months worth of expenses for emergencies. I think bad debt, I feel like, is relative. You know, people talk about debt, right? So student loans, if you got the type of degree, you a doctor, or you're on the right trajectory, you've built those skills that have leveled you up. I don't necessarily look at that as bad debt, but we have to figure out how to manage it, how to pay it off, and what the long-term plan is, right? We need to get you, and this is where with the stability piece, it was, you know, what I got written down here is 6 months of living expenses. So and then the skills and experience you can leverage with whatever debt you have, right? Being able to leverage those things that get you access to certain networks, because certain networks, you need certain leverage. You might need a degree. You might need an MBA. And we're not saying go that route right off the bat. If you can get into a trade early, stack your bread, then go get the MBA, make somebody else pay for it, then that's huge. But look at, you know, leverage. When I look at leverage, I think management skills. What are your leadership skills like? You know, from school, if you was that person you can lead, get you a skill, you know, learn science, learn biology, learn something that's going to pay. Do your research. Hey, where do I want to be in 10 years? 15. Okay, 20. Do I need that house? You know what I'm saying? Or am I good with an apartment? Am I good with a nice condo for now? Because that's going to end up, that house I might pay $300,000 for it today, but in the long run, it might cost me $750,000. That is not unheard of. People don't actually look at what they're paying long-term. They look at what they can afford month to month. So that's huge. And then certifications through employers, right? I talked about, we're going to do a certification thing. So that leads us, you know, once you got the stability, we want to talk flexibility. So when it comes down to flexibility, hold on real quick. Hey, shout out to the Intentional Millionaire. Go check out the channel on the Hungry Millennial Network. The Intentional Millionaire came and dropped a lot of gems. I'm actually gonna be cutting the episode up and putting some reels out there. So we appreciate you, family, for coming on. That's really huge for us, man. Shout out to him. So we're gonna get into number 5, and that's flexibility. So what says Shawn on flexibility?
Before we move on to flexibility, I want to say one more thing about stability.
Go ahead.
That stability piece took me 7 years, bro. To have no bad debt and 6 months of emergency, that took me 7 years to get to. From the time that I graduated college, got my own place, learned how to save, learned how to pay off debt, and then I took that just to get the stuff forward.
Bro, and the beautiful part about that 7-year piece is the fact that the beautiful part about that 7-year piece is you literally, and there was a guy that was hired from the state police, and then he went and joined the military, leveled up the major, and now he's about to retire again. The beautiful part about 7 years is you can literally have 3-4 careers in your lifetime. And so the people that they're thinking, oh, 30, 40, I ain't gonna make it, the time to So, but the flexibility, right? 2 years of savings. So when I look at this and I see this, and even sourcing the article, the thing is I looked at having a valuable network. You know, at this flexibility, you can have a network of individuals. Hey, I need a plumber. Boom. Okay, I got a business. They gonna call me up. We do business in our network. Right? That changes the game, right? Because the network is the network. And that's what we're about here on the Millionaire. That's why a lot of people that we got popping coming into the channel, people that we networked with that talk about the bag, they talk about IT certifications. Actually, before the billions, when I do this certification series, I gotta have you on, bro. Shout out to our guy before the billions, man.
Good, bro.
He been rocking with us for a minute, man. You know, we gonna hit my dog with the round of applause real quick. Appreciate you, Brody. Life-changing guy right there. Been riding with us since day one. Was one of our first guests. Check out our episode with Before the Billions. He really been rocking with us for so long, man. It's huge, man. So that's our guy right there, bro. And then he said, so you guys, yeah. So yeah, but you know, it's all good, man. It's one of those things where we want to keep marching in our truth. So that the flexibility piece, the network, investment groups, I got real estate on there. I've got logistics, right? If you can get into a honeypot for logistics, right now they're always looking for logisticians. So if you can figure out, you know, how to ship things, how transportation pipelines work, transportation, as far as becoming a truck driver. I know people who they may never drive a truck, but at the same time, they may, you know, want to own a fleet. You can own a fleet, you know what I'm saying? And you can help buy in with other people to own those trucks and get those trucks on the road. Because you got a lot of cats that they just want to be drivers. They just want to take this load from here to there, and they want to be paid well for it. And there's a lot of people out there, right? So there are just different avenues of approach that you can go into and check out. And so the number 6, financial independence.
Let me jump in on flexibility, Tommy.
Go ahead.
Do you have 2 years of expenses saved? You can take a year off of work. It took me and Zora 2 years to get to that. I think because we both had the habit of saving already down packed before we met each other. When we met each other and we combined our assets and things like that, we got to that piece in 2 years. Okay.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Well, and that gives you that flexibility, man. It gives you so many options because you don't have to just jump in and take any job that's offered to you. You at that point, when you get to that point, you should have leverage in your career. Shawn, you have leverage to where you was able to kind of navigate some different, you know, things in that teaching realm. Okay, I want this, but with a little bit of this, because A, I'm a proven commodity in that classroom. B, I know how to reach the students, and C, y'all gonna pay me what I'm worth. And those things are huge. Those things are major. So it's capitalizing. Though that flexibility starts day one on the job. It starts with showing up on time. You know, we all have issues every now and then. It starts with, you know, being respectful. Okay, you don't like the way somebody says something. What we're not doing anymore, we're not popping off at the mouth. We might, okay. So when you said that, let me get some clarification. So how do you envision this process going? You don't like the changes that we're making, but if you were in the hot seat, how would you make the changes? Right? You might have somebody to say, I wouldn't make no changes. Obviously, then, you know, if you know there's changes that need to be made, you're going to tuck it in your pocket. Like, oh yeah, I get it. I understand, but we finna change this bad boy. Because, you know what I'm saying, we finna turn this into greatness. And that's just what we do. So it's one of those things where that flexibility starts day one on the job. It starts by not burning bridges. It starts with putting in your 2 weeks at every job that you decide that you're going to walk away from. And doing it respectfully, because you never know what bridge you'll need to get over to the other side, to that 6-figure category, to that, you know, high 6-figure category, to maybe that $1 million category. Maybe you get to a point where, you know, because I worked in the trucking industry with FedEx. I was a FedEx driver, right? Maybe you get to the point where you need some information. People talk about sitting down with Jay-Z, but have you thought about sitting down with your old boss, right? Be like, okay, you owned a fleet of trucks. What was that like? How can I do this successfully? If you could change anything, you know, maybe you bought him a steak. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you bought him a beer. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things that could change your life and make you a millionaire because you took heed while you was at the FedEx warehouse, you was stacking them boxes. You wasn't a driver yet. He's like, okay, that could be better. Okay, when I come out, my system got to be cold. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my truck's got to be on point. I got to have a maintenance program. So if I got to have a maintenance program, I got to have this much money saved over for maintenance alone. When you first start out, maybe you ain't getting a nice truck. Maybe you sell the luxury car so that way you can put more money into your fleet. You know, little small things like that really, really create that flexibility. That financial. Now we're gonna get to number 6, the financial independence piece. What says Shawn?
That financial independence piece. At that point, I think you either win in a lottery or you got a bunch of assets that's just bringing you in money so that you can live off the income of your investments and not have to work. I think that piece right there is probably going to take me another 7 to 9 years. I'm gonna be honest.
7 to 9. Okay.
It's gonna probably take me 7 to 9 years to be able to have so many assets that generate enough income that replaces what I make right now. And Zora. It gotta replace me and Zora's income. So that's gonna take me a couple years. So when I think about that, I'm thinking real estate.
Okay.
I'm thinking stocks with dividends.
Okay.
I'm thinking
Dividends.
a little bit of crypto that I can sell when it pop off.
Okay.
I'm thinking a small business. I'm thinking about being an angel investor, right?
Okay.
Maybe I don't have to create the small business. Maybe the small business is already there. And all I have to do is help somebody with some liquidity, and now I'm taking profits off the top.
Bro, Shawn, you cooking. And here's why. A lot of people don't think about, they think about being a top man, but a lot of times that's the most stressful position, and it's the most financially draining. Sometimes you want to be the middleman, or you want to be the person that's holding the castle up, right? Because you got more bricks and you can get more irons in the fire, right? Then you have staying power. That's huge. That angel investor piece, knowing the right people, knowing the character of the individuals that you're investing in. We talked about that, a few episodes back last year, and the fact that, know the CEO of the stocks that you're going into. What type of moves do they make? We saw what happened to Twitter, when Elon purchased it. There were some different things going on. We see what, different leaders do to different stock, right? And so that's very, very huge. But you become a part of that conversation because you own part of that company. And that's a huge game changer. For financial independence, you can live off the income your investments generate. Yeah, I think I can't really hit on it any harder than you hit on it. Shout out to Wally. Wally, we appreciate you, fam, for tapping in, G. Our boy Wally, just Wally verse media. Okay, I'm with you. It's one of those things where, I couldn't hit it any harder. And when you look at investments, look at your children. We look at We Are the World, songs that have come out, children are our future, different things like that. They really are. Invest in them early and invest in them often. Invest in the skills that they want to do. Like the other day, me and the kiddo, we was just sitting down and what happened? She woke up earlier than me. But what I did is I have a bunch of Legos here for her, and she's really into Roblox. And so I bought her a bunch of Roblox Legos. So the girl, last time she was here, she had we were building off of what Roblox had. By the time I woke up, I walk out the room, the kid was like, my iPad was dead. But you want to see what I made with my Roblox? And I was like, she literally built, it was just perfect. It was everything was symmetrical on what she built. Like she built like a whole building, like little setup, and she's only 7. I was like, this is crazy. Like I could have never dreamed of the way she did it. And then she had a little cubby hole in there, this is where the extra pieces go inside of the piece. I'm like, man, I got a little engineer on my hands. You know what I'm saying? And so, for me, I'm like, I'm gonna feed the athletic ability and feed the skills that she builds over time. But having an engineer that could possibly be on a basketball scholarship, you know what I'm saying? That's money right there. And plus, I've made sacrifices where my deployments and stuff like that. I still got some money out there for my GI Bill that I can use for schooling. So there's different avenues of becoming and having investments generate, right. Make sure you take care of those kids so they look out for you later, right? The worst thing you can do is smash your kid's potential and then be in the nursing home by yourself and ain't nobody coming to visit you. So make sure you take care of your people as well. Number 7, what do you have for abundant wealth? How long you think it's gonna take you to get there?
Man, that I don't think, me personally, I don't think I'm touching 7 until maybe 55, 60 to have so much money that's so much that you don't even need.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Warren Buffett right now. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I'm thinking Warren Buffett has billions of dollars. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need that amount. Like, do I think I'm gonna touch $1 billion? Probably not. I think enough money that I wouldn't need anymore would probably be like 5 million. If I had 5 to 10 million, I'm dying and leaving the rest to my family. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's nothing that I can spend that amount of money on.
Yeah.
That it will be gone and nobody else can benefit from it.
Yeah. Well, and I'm looking, when I look at number 7, like my thoughts is I'm looking at the 50 to 100 million category. Based off of a networking situation and figuring out, what the quirks are for finance. I think the beautiful part of the life that we live in now, and the generation we live in now, is information is in abundance. And if you can take that information and be intentional, you can really grow. You can really put yourself in some positions to really blow up. So I think it's beautiful, and I think it's achievable if you're intentional. Now, if you just out here manifesting, I don't know if that's gonna work for you, player. A manifest is just, I said it must come true. We don't do that around here. We make sure we stay intentional. So that's huge. Did you have anything else on Mr. Sabatier's 7 levels of financial freedom?
Yeah, the last thing I gotta say really about that, it's about being intentional, like you said, and it's gonna take some time. I'm not out here trying to get rich quick, bro. I ain't trying to scam nobody. All I'm trying to do is make as much money as I can while I teach and do the thing that I love. And then after spending my money on my expenses, anything that's left over just goes to investments. And I'm gonna just take the slow route. I'm cool with that. That's what makes me happy. That's what makes me excited. Like, to even think. I'll give you one example because I'm not sure if I told you this last week. But like, a goal of mine and my wife is to pay off our condo early, bro. And like, if we could do this in 4 or 5 years, that's no mortgage, bro. That's no mortgage for the rest of our life. The money that goes to our mortgage can now go into investments and bring us even more money.
Outstanding. And that's beautiful, bro. And that all comes with you being intentional. You know what I'm saying? Shawn, I think, a lot of people, I don't know if they've caught the early episodes, but Shawn was very intentional very early. And he wasn't just dating anybody. You know what I'm saying? And he wasn't even really focused on it. It just so happened that, him and Zorah met. Y'all met at school, right?
Yeah, we met at the school that I used to work at.
Yeah, and so, it was one of those things where then they start walking in the truth. And Shawn had a program. And I think, a lot of guys, when we go out here and we date and we don't have a program. His program was financial freedom. And he has marched to that beat ever since I first met him. And that's huge, man. Because we used to run into each other at college, you know what I'm saying? But, out here in the real world, I've known Shawn, and Shawn has inspired me to, be intentional about, my dating and how I move around as well, because that's huge. Together, you can accomplish so much because y'all different people and y'all bring different things to the table. So that's huge. Is that all you have for the listeners for tonight?
Yeah, that's what I got, man.
All right. Well, we appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell on YouTube. We starting to creep up onto 1,000 subscribers. So share with your friends, your family. For y'all on Facebook, thank you for tuning in and checking out this event. We'll be back with y'all next Tuesday. And just keep stay on top of your finances, stay on top of your personal growth. If you have any questions at all, email us, TommyLee at ProPrag.com, Shawn at ProPrag.com. If you want to book a consultation, you liked anything that you heard, www.proprag.com. You can book a consultation. We also have our weekly blogs on there about just, fitness, finance, growth, and leadership, everything personal growth. So we really appreciate y'all. Without further ado, I'm Tommy.
I'm Shawn.
And this has been another FX2GL. We appreciate y'all.